Hello and welcome back to Free Coaching Friday. The question for today is, how do you handle difficult and belittling and sarcastic people in life and in the workplace? So I'm going to share with you some ideas for you to consider that you can apply in your life. These ideas will show you how to be, because how to be will inevitably show you what to do. And in fact, you can be creative in ways in which you do things your way that works for you without having me ever tell you what to do. So I want you to firstly consider the idea, the concept, sarcasm. Sarcasm is something I rarely ever employ, and there's only a specific instance which I'll employ it, which I'll show you when. But I encourage you to stay away from sarcasm, especially when you're in the workplace. I'll show you why. Sarcasm, by definition, is your use of irony to mock and convey contempt. It is always judgmental. What does it communicate to the other person? In fact, some people find it really funny. But it's funny and it's always detriment to another individual. It's always a detriment, it's always a judgment against another individual. So you and someone else may find it funny, but what that conveys to that individual is you're the kind of person who is a judgmental person. So when you're in a political environment, when you're in an organization, when you're in a workplace, when you're communicating with many of your friends, what they'll take in from your communication is that you're the kind of person who is a judgmental person. The only time that I will employ the only time that I will employ sarcasm is when I am with allies, meaning that I'm outright and I'm very forward that I'm against an individual, or I'm against a group of individuals, or I'm against a group of individuals representing an idea, and everybody knows that we are against that one thing. So again, I'll encourage you to stay away from sarcasm and engage in funny things like puns and irony. They're the best. I think they're called dad jokes just because they're inoffensive to most people. And the more you train yourself in appreciating puns, the more you're able to use them, the more witty you become. The second idea I want you to consider that'll teach you how to be, and this one's the most important one, is the opinions of others. Consider this idea and apply it into every aspect of your life, in business, in your relationships. The opinions of others whom you don't admire and requiring validation from that is literally crazy. It's literally insane. To seek the validation of people whom you don't care for, has no value to you, has no significance, whom you don't admire, is literally crazy. It's like you're driving up to a stoplight and you come across a bum, a homeless person, and they are belligerent and they're calling you, you're a loser, or you're terrible, you're a bad person. And you take that to heart and it ruins your day, and you contemplate in your life, am I really a bad person? And the best example of it is if you're painting a painting and you look over to you're finished with your painting and you look over to your right and you have a pet goldfish, and you ask your pet goldfish, hey pet goldfish, what do you think about my painting? And then it doesn't have any reply. And then you say, yeah, you're right. This painting does suck. To seek the validation of people or things which you don't care for nor admire is literally crazy. There are people everywhere around you, in coffee shops, walking down the streets, in malls, and your friends in your life that care so much what other people think, and they behave in such a way which appeases to other people, when in fact the only thing that person is thinking is how the other people think of them. Everybody's thinking about themselves and everybody's worried about other people think of them, when every other person is really more worried about themselves. Everyone's doing the same thing. To seek the validation of people you don't care for nor admire is insane. The third idea I want you to consider is politics. Politics happens in every organization. The definition of politics is any activity which improves your status or position. This occurs in a workplace, this occurs in organizations, and I want you to be mindful of politics, and I want you to recognize that in a workplace or in an organization, you have no choice but to play politics. And so I want you to consider that when you're interacting with your coworkers, or when you're acting with other people in public, when you're acting with people in the media, when you're acting with anywhere in any scenario, you're engaging in politics. Unless you're with somebody whom you trust, who you can be vulnerable with, who will not betray you, you can trust will not betray you, then you're not engaging in politics with that person. But when you're in a scenario where you are in an organization, you're going to be engaging in politics. So I want you to consider that and recognize that, and recognize that you have to play the political game. You have to play it. What strategy? You could either go through life haphazardly, or you could go through life with strategy. You can go through relationships just haphazardly and let the whims of relationship, let the whims of two individuals or more individuals control your life, or you can have strategy. You can have your life control you, or you can have strategy and affect your life in ways that you like to affect it. So there are strategies I want you to consider. That is the third idea, politics. You have to be political. You have to play the politics game. There are two techniques that I want you to employ when it comes to when you're in an organization, when you're acting with other people, where politics ensues, where politics is a given. The first idea is empathy. Empathy is your ability to see the other person's perspective. So when you appreciate the other person's perspective, you're able to really be able to handle the situation more. Now, when you're communicating with that person, you find out more about them. And when they see that this person understands me, which is the goal of communication, this person understands me because you're communicating empathy with them, they're going to be able to like you more. Now, in a political game, when you're playing politics, which you have no choice but to play politics in an organization, you have to get certain people to like you. Now, I want you to get people in the position of power to like you, because your goal in a political situation is to get to a point, which the second technique that I want you to employ, and that technique is leadership. Now, very fundamental, the foundation of leadership is leading other people's minds, being a thought leader, essentially, but leading other people's minds. What does that mean? It means that your frame is so strong that people buy into your belief rather than you're buying into their belief. If your belief is weak, if your thought about yourself, the first person you have to lead is yourself before you can ever lead others. But you don't have to be a leader. You don't have to be a supervisor. You don't have to be a manager. You could be just a regular employee with no leadership position, but have leadership by leading other people's thoughts, by having the ability to influence and persuade others. Recognize that leadership, having leadership, is your ability to lead other people's minds. Now, I want you to consider the notion of framing. Framing is your being so sold out on yourself and sold out on your reality, that your reality is so strong. Your positive reality, whether if you buy into the pessimistic person's frame, your reality is going to succumb to their frame, and you're going to buy into their frame, and you're going to be a pessimistic person. So when you're around people which you don't have a choice to be around, such as the workplace, you have to take on leadership. You have to lead other people's minds. Inevitably, when you employ leadership techniques like you lead other people's minds, you are a person who they look up to. You're the person who they look to for ideas and thoughts. They always ask you, what do you think? Or what do you think about this situation? How would you employ that in a workplace? I would give the example of, firstly, look at problems and give solutions. Give solutions to problems. What inevitably happens is the people that are higher up, the people in supervisory positions, will look at you and will say, wow, this person provides a lot of solutions to our problems. Now we can probably put them in a supervisory position. Now, remember I talked about empathy, how you can get to the point of leadership. The reason why you want to get into a leadership position is because you want to get to a point where you're not at the whims of other people's pessimism and negativity. You want to get to a point where you create the culture in the workplace, in the organization. Creating culture is, do you have a culture? Culture, by definition, is the way things are done. Every workplace, every organization, every place you go to has things the way it's done. Every household, when you enter into my household, there are things the way the way things are done, and I'm going to communicate that to you clearly. In every workplace, there's culture. And so when you get to a leadership position, you now have the ability to create culture. So you want to get to a leadership position as fast as possible.